right. So a question that was submitted that came up often, unsurprisingly, I'm going to pitch it to you, Marla, first. What are some ideas if summer sponsors are looking for kitchen staff, for prep staff, if they're running short, on folks to prepare the meals? Where might they go to? Who might they talk to?
Thanks, Emily. There are a lot of avenues that our teams can look towards. First, I mean, if the school system that they work in has a culinary department, what a perfect way to get some preparation experience. Reach out to local universities. There could be dietetic interns that are on some type of rotation and would love to get into a kitchen and start using equipment and preparing food. The other idea is, you know, so many of our restaurants have been hurting over the last year and a half. I reach out to some of our close mom and pop restaurants or even chains with the staff, that existing staff that may want a few extra hours. And again, none of us do school feeding or child nutrition without having a heart. So this could be a really wonderful opportunity for some people who never thought to work in child nutrition, to give them an idea of what it's really like. So those are just a couple of ideas. I'm sure my colleagues might have some more.
I would love to share some. We have had really good luck with getting our paras and some of our teachers even, who, you know, may be single and don't have family or just need extra money. I think paras are not paid very well. So we've had some really good luck. And what's great about using paras and teachers is they become ingratiated to the school nutrition program, and they go back and spread the word about what a great job we're doing and how hard we all work. So I think that is really good. Also, looking at your subs that you have during the year, sometimes we don't think about subs and they don't always get the message that we're having a summer feeding program. So reaching out to your subs. And the other thing is, sometimes the subs that are subbing for the teaching program also, they're always looking for extra work. So I think they're a really good idea. The other thing is, I've seen some people actually have some job fairs this time of the year to look for people that are looking for jobs, or going to the unemployment office and putting up a sign up in there, because a lot of states now, people are you know, running out of their unemployment and are starting to look for jobs. So, you know, this is a great opportunity to give them an idea. And then hopefully what's great about that is they may come back with you next year. So, and we also want to not forget about students. So I have done, had the best luck with hiring high school students. They are all looking for summer jobs. And what I love about them, and we're going to talk about them more later on, is that once you get them captured in working for you in the summer, then they may stay on and work for you the next year.
And to add to what you just said, Donna, they could be good ambassadors for increasing participation in the school meals program.
Absolutely. They add a lot of fun to it, and they're so enthusiastic, and they have good backs, and they're strong, and they're not burned out like the rest of our staff are. So they have been amazing.
Also, we could reach out to some existing food service employees that may have, you know, a son that will qualify, and give kids of our current employees the opportunity to work. And I'm sure that, you know, our families have been hit hard. An opportunity to get a couple of hours every day could be a real benefit to that student or that child or that and that family. So those are
brought up a great idea. I forgot that this year we had a bunch of retired school nutrition employees who retired last year, who just kind of missed it. And they also found out that their retirement paycheck wasn't going as far as they thought it would. So they called me up and said, can I come work summer feeding? And I said, how fantastic is that? So reach out to your retired school nutrition employees, or even retirees that are teacher retirees or para-pro retirees, because they've kind of realized that retirement's great, but I could use some money and have a little fun.
I also wanted to ask, have you worked with culinary programs, with your colleges that do have dietetic interns, maybe local universities that have nutrition departments, and students who are looking for opportunities with food service?
Well, historically, in Montgomery County, we serve as a rotation for many of the dietetic interns. And so by all means, reach out to the universities or the contacts that you've had in the past with preceptors and other sources of dietetic interns. And this could serve as part of their internship, paid internship. So by all means, reach out to any resource that you might have. Sure.
But Emily, what's even a great idea too is to reach out to the undergraduate students, because when you're an undergraduate student in dietetics and you're applying for dietetic internships, one of the things that can help you get into an internship is to have work experience in areas of food service or nutrition or anything. So this would look really, really good on their resume. So in between their freshman and sophomore year, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever, before they're applying for internships, they probably would love the opportunity to get a paid, paid experience that will look good when they're applying for internships. So undergraduate programs are great.
And Ilana, this question came up a ton. Everybody is saying staff are tired, burnt out, looking for a break. So what options might you suggest if staff are tired, looking for a break? How can sponsors take advantage of those waivers, especially, and maybe cut some slack with the program?
Sure. Well, one of the first things they should consider is doing maybe a rotating schedule. So having staff work 4 days, off 3 days, or even every other week. And that would probably alleviate some of that stress that they're feeling and give them a little bit of a break each week. Another thing with all of the waivers that are in place is take advantage of those. And instead of serving every day, serve every other day or do 2 days of pickup. So you won't have to bring in as many people to do that or to constantly staff it. So those are probably two really good options to think about. I'm sure others can chime in.
So my best option, and we're doing it this year, is we're doing the weekly meal box, and my staff is so excited about that because they are so burned out from having worked since the pandemic. We're the only department in the school that has not gotten a break at all. So we now are doing half the county on Tuesday deliveries and half the county on Thursday deliveries. So our staff comes in Monday, makes the boxes, delivers. They send them out on Tuesday. They come in on Wednesday, make boxes, send them out on Thursday. So they have every Friday off. So they're so excited to have a 3-day weekend. And this is our first week of doing it. And they're already just loving it so much better than every single day of grind, loading the buses and unloading the buses and the interactions and the leftovers and all that kind of stuff. So the weekly mailboxes, we're doing 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches, which is about what you can do. And so we're getting more bang for our buck by doing that than we did when we were doing the daily meal pickups, because we were doing one meal, breakfast and lunch every single day, 5 days a week. So it's cutting down our expenses. We don't need as many bus drivers. We don't need as many assistants on the bus. We don't need we actually need less people to prepare the meal boxes than we did when we were making sandwiches and wrapping sandwiches and bagging up stuff. So it's been a real win-win for us.
Donna,
Go
ahead, Ilana, sorry.
I was just going to say with your mailboxes, Donna, that doesn't take somebody that needs a lot of experience to pack those, so that using those high schoolers and telling them what to do is really helpful in kind of smoothing out where that workload is going to go.
Absolutely, Ilana, because you don't need anybody with any training. So we advertised that there was no experience necessary. If you have 2 arms and 2 legs and a brain, you can do this. I mean, it doesn't, so, and we say we pay you to exercise is what we do. So.
Donna, I was going to jump in before. Can you give some examples of, and I know we're going to talk about menus, but this might be a perfect opportunity to talk about what the entrees and the sides look like in the boxes.
Yes, I will. So next week box, we were already talking about it today, is we're doing 3 days of chicken nuggets and a roll and 4 days of hamburgers. And then we put in there like a tomato to go on the hamburger. So we're following all the guidelines, the red, the orange, all that kind of stuff. So we put in a tomato to go with the sandwiches. We put in a head of romaine lettuce So we get our dark green vegetables in. We put in carrots. We put in like 3 apples and 4 oranges. We put actually next week's is strawberries, a package of strawberries. This week's was a package of grapes. So we just put in a bag of grapes. This week the box was a fajita box. So they got the USDA diced chicken. They got green bell peppers, red bell peppers, orange bell peppers. They got onions. They got tomatoes. They got whole wheat flour tortilla wraps. And for breakfast, we're doing like prepackaged muffins, pancakes, waffles, chicken biscuits, sausage biscuits, cereal, fruit, and juice. So in the box, we give them a handout that says put in 3 apples, a bag of grapes, and 2 oranges, put in 5 juices, put in 3 cereals. So they know exactly what to put in the boxes. And so the families say it's like Christmas opening the box to see what's in there because they have no idea. And we're doing all this nutrition education in the boxes, which is so exciting. And so as a dietitian, it's the first time I've ever been able to do nutrition education that's reaching 3,000 to 4,000, kids every single week.
That's great. Talk about milk. How is your milk served?
Oh, the milk. I forgot that's the best thing. We're doing a half a gallon of white 1% milk and a half a gallon of chocolate milk. So they get a half a gallon of each. And some of our parents actually, when we give them the milk, say, can I have all white? And we say, sure. So nobody's ever asked for all chocolate, but sometimes they want all white and we accommodate that. And so that makes it so much easier than giving out all the cartons and having to bag up all the cartons and everything. And the parents, when I ask them what they like about the box, it's probably 25% say the fluid, they love the milk. They love getting the milk. And I'm a big dairy person. I want those kids to be drinking that milk. So I'm so excited that our kids are getting lots of milk over the summer. So thank you for asking that question.
Sorry, Emily.
You're good. I love it.
Yeah.
I also just, go ahead.
I was going to say that, some of the food security work that's been going on, we've gotten volunteers from people outside of the food service arena. And as Donna mentioned, some of the folks to call on, they have just felt so valued and that they're providing such a service that they've wanted to continue to volunteer. They're getting paid to do their other job, but they're volunteering to distribute food, to assemble boxes. And it's such a feeling of giving back. So
we've had some organizations in the area that have mandatory hours that their employees have to volunteer. And so like Plant Vogel and Savannah Riverside and stuff like that, some of these organizations require the employees to volunteer. So they've been coming volunteering for us when we gave out weekly boxes during the year, and we expect them to be volunteering this summer. They get the biggest kick out of doing it. They love to see what we're doing and the healthy, nutritious items. And we always give them a box to take home so they can try all the recipes and try all the food and see. I think people have no idea what a great job school nutrition programs are doing in feeding these kids really healthy food. And so we're not just feeding them, we're feeding them healthy food. And there's a difference. I mean, and a kid just having something in their belly, but having healthy food in their belly so they can not worry about that summer slide that they have, that we make sure. And a lot of our kids, I'd say 25% of our kids are in summer school. So they need to, and so we are feeding them during summer school, but we still want them to have that food on the weekends. So it's a very important service.
And I just wanted to add, while you were talking about sending home the nutrition education in the meal boxes, a lot of sponsors have started sending home information about volunteering or working in the program. And so you can add a QR code with a link to the application and say, we're looking for help. You get to wear casual clothes, weekends off, no mornings, nights, weekends. That's another idea that we had all talked about is just advertising to your families that you're already working with.
Yeah, Emily, so can we talk about the kids a little bit?
Yes.
High school kids.
Yes.
This has been my favorite thing. We have had such
too, Donna, on what age you hire. So I want make sure in your answer you talk about that.
Yeah, so we hire age typically 16 and up, but we have had some 15-year-olds that we've gotten work permits for, and the high school will give them a work permit, so we're able to hire 15 and up. And they have been the best thing we have ever done, because those coolers are so heavy that we have to lift and load the buses and unload the buses. And what they love so much about the job is it isn't weekends, Emily. It's not night. So it's not like fast food where they're having to work till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't have to have a vehicle to drive or get, so they're right here at the school. They're in a very safe environment, and they love that it's a steady paycheck and that we pay on time, and they don't have to worry about that. But they have really love. For us, the advantages are the kids don't have small children at home that need to go to the doctor. They don't have to deal with children who get sick or elderly, other people that get sick. Their attendance is so amazing compared to my other employees that always have it seems like a gazillion doctor's appointments and stuff. So I really love about that. We don't have to pay them any benefits, so they don't get health insurance or retirement or anything like that. So it's minimum. We pay $7.50 an hour. It's just a little bit over minimum wage, but they are really grateful for that. And we don't have any bad work habits to break either, because they've never worked anyplace else. This is like their first job, so we get to kind of train them. And I think that's a real plus, because they don't always have good work role models at home. They've not really, their parents may not work. And so them coming to work, we kind of teach them the importance of being on time and showing up, dressing appropriately, and those kinds of things. So those high school students, and then we hire them the next year, which is great because they've already are addicted. And then they go out and tell their friends about school nutrition. So then they'll start calling me, and then they call they say, well, my brother wants to work next year, or my sister wants to work next year. So it's like we pass it down from generation to generation. So we have probably 70% of our workforce this year is students. And it has been great. They are fun, they're energetic, and they're not burned out.
So we're talking about site staff and distribution staff now. There's teens, and a lot of these examples of QR codes to parents and knocking on restaurant doors and asking if anyone wants a day job would apply as well. But what are some other ideas for site and distribution staff? Even volunteers we can talk about too. I'll start with, let's go to Marla first.
Sure. So historically, summer programs are providing meals to locations like rec departments or apartment complexes. What a great opportunity to really partner with these folks and have them be willing to rise to being part of the distribution process. We know that we could train them, and they are now really following the rules and part of that other piece that we need, which is the accountable distribution of our meals. Reach out to the rec department, the Boys and Girls Club. Historically, most jurisdictions have Boys and Girls Clubs, and empower them as a partner to be part of your program. And as Donna mentioned, they'll be back next year because they feel valued and they understand the importance of the work that they're doing. I know that we're going to talk about diversity later on, but I'll just mention that so many of our jurisdictions have organizations that are supporting the either Africans or Indian folks or Latina, Asian folks, and reach out to those organizations that would likely be thrilled to participate in distributing meals. And the nice part about that, the wonderful part about that, is we would have students who would see folks that they can relate to at the point of distribution. That's a totally untapped resource. And then the last thing is talk to the food pantries. Why not connect a school meal, a summer meal distribution site at a pantry where families are coming to pick up food and staples and produce with the opportunity to have meals distributed to their kids. And with the waivers, they can pick up for their kids. So why not take advantage of that opportunity while the waivers are in place?
Right. And Marla, just to add to that, you mentioned some of the cultural centers that you can work with, but also family resource centers are also a good one to talk to for looking for people to help.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on that, I'm sorry, Donna, you go, and then I'll come back.
Well, I was going to say, I think churches and religious organizations, we
Sure.
don't need to forget churches. And I'm here in the South in the Bible Belt, and a lot of churches are looking for meaningful work, and they would find this as very meaningful work. And a lot of them would love, to have an opportunity to volunteer to do something like this. So I think reaching out to your churches and in our community, we have a lot of African-American churches, and I think they would love being able to ensure and make sure that their community is well served. And so sometimes we have had, if we've had boxes left over or something like that, we'll call the churches and they'll help us distribute them and those kinds of things. So I think reaching out to the churches is an excellent idea. And then for us during summertime, we also can feed. We work with them with their Bible study groups and things like that. So we offer meals to help them out too. So it can be a real two-way street.
Oh, that's a great idea. And the church could actually function as its own site and ensure that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What I was going to also suggest is reach out to your Title I group or your Head Start staff that work very closely with parents and make summer meals them aware of it, but also as an opportunity for them to get involved and to either be part of your preparation location or a part of your distribution location.
One last thing I just thought about was volunteer students who have to get volunteer hours. So I was reaching out to the Beta Club and IB programs and stuff like that. And a lot of these clubs require that the kids have to have 20 hours worth of volunteer during the work year. So for a lot of kids during the year, it can be very stressful. And so if they have an opportunity to get those volunteer hours in the summer and come work with your program, and these are some, amazing students, and then you might wind up getting them to work for you during the school year. Who knows?
Let's pivot a little and talk about drivers and I know Donna, you're doing delivery as you do every summer out into your community. So talk about this summer, what your plan is for drivers. I know you had an interesting scenario pop up, and then in general, maybe ideas for folks for finding drivers.
Right. So I know with our drivers, we had, because summer school became so popular this year, we had so many kids that needed to be in summer school that it took most all of our drivers away. So it really caused problems. So we were looking at first at 15 routes, and it kept going 14, 13, 12 as we kept losing drivers. So one of the things we started doing was doubling up on our runs. So our runs would leave and go out and they, do half of an area, and then they come back and do another half of the area. So, but then we also asked our drivers that were driving during summer school, they would drive summer school. And then when they dropped the kids off at 8 o'clock, they would come pick up boxes and do a short run and be back at 2 o'clock to pick up and the kids to take them home. So we shortened some of the routes for them and we doubled up on other routes. But one of the things I would say looking for drivers is we require in our county all of our athletic program coaches to get a CDL. So during the year, they have to be able to drive. So we have coaches driving for us in the summer. We also get our teachers and parapros. The county will allow them to drive a bus and teach and be a parapro. And they get like an extra $16,000, $17,000. So a bunch of our teachers and parapros have become drivers. So we reached out to get some of those people to drive for us too.
Mm-hmm. Along the lines of the, you talked about the CDLs. There's a lot of districts that are using just regular vans because you don't need a CDL for those. So there are a lot of people that are delivering meals with the vans and just putting coolers in them to keep the food temperature safe. So that's also helpful too. And that's also really helpful for those small rural streets that many people are delivering on because you can't turn a big bus around in those areas. So.
Right.
And I'm going to add to the chat here, We wrote a case study a little while back on a food bank out in a really rural area of Northern California that actually partners with UPS to get meals out to remote areas that they otherwise could not reach. And so can you think about what transportation authorities exist, public or private, that you might be able to combine efforts with? If they're already going those routes, can you add a cooler or boxes on and have a site staff person jump on the public bus and take them around? So that case study is in the chat if anyone is interested in reading about a partnership with UPS, which we thought was really interesting.
Actually,
Marla, did you have, yeah.
good. Last year, when we were able to get the farm to families boxes, we did partner with UPS, and we had the boxes come to our bus depot, and UPS came and put the boxes in their truck and took them out to the various school locations. So that's a fabulous idea. The other suggestion I was going to make is talk to your food pantries, because they're many times delivering food to people's homes. They may be willing to add a route to deliver the boxes to the students' homes, as well as talking to, if your jurisdiction has a government center and a volunteer office. Many of the senior folks that I know that in our jurisdiction are more than willing to participate and to help by delivering to homes, so they could be delivering your child nutrition boxes to homes as well. There's lots of people, and that's one of the things that, unfortunately, there's a silver lining in COVID and this pandemic, is so many like-minded people have bonded together to make sure that our families and our children are really being taken care of. And so there are people out there that would be much more than willing to help.
Yep. There's also organizations that are doing home visits for some of the students too. And I'm sure they're going to continue over the summertime. So, you know, working with the social workers to determine who those people are, and they can bring the boxes and have done food delivery too. So it's really figuring out what network is in your area and then working with all of those people, all those tentacles, and helping to deliver the food that you need to deliver.
Since we're talking about engaging so many different folks in food service for the summer meals program right now, a question came into the chat. How do you make sure accountability? How do you make sure kids are not getting a delivery box at home, especially if summer school is happening and they're eating meals at school, and you can't double claim and don't want to get audited or have money taken back? So what are some strategies for training staff who might be new to the program on accountability? And what are some of your strategies on the back end to make sure that kids are getting 1 meal per day? I mean, 2 meals per day, 1 meal per meal.
Right.
Well, Emily, we just started our program yesterday, and that was a huge issue for us. So as I trained our staff in orientation just last week, what I told them to do is when they make their stops and people come up to the bus, I said, say, how many meal boxes are you picking up for? How many children are you picking up for today? And if they say 4, then I ask them to say, then how many of those 4 are in summer school with us? And if they say 2, then I say, okay, well, then you're technically only eligible for 2 boxes, and I ask them to explain. So I'm hoping that as we do that on the first days of the first route, that the word doesn't get out, because we have a huge grapevine in the community about getting out saying, you know, that, so, and the other thing I wanted to make sure is that we were giving boxes to actual children in the home. And so and I told them, I said, if somebody like me walks up to the bus and says, and you ask me how many boxes I need, and I say 4, then you need to say, well, tell me the names of your children and their birth dates. So that was something that, because we have a lot of people that want to get boxes for themselves. It's great food. I want a box for myself. So I said, this is a great way. And if they can't tell you the names of the children and their birth date, then they don't have those children in the home, because when we're delivering the boxes at 10 o'clock in the morning, sometimes the kids are asleep and I don't really expect them to wake them up and bring them out. So that was kind of the 2 issues that we wanted to make sure is that we had you know, those kids were really in the home, and that the kids were not in summer school. So if that's going to totally, you know, catch everybody, we hope it will, but that was just the only solution we could come up with.
The other
Some
thing,
districts.
okay,
Go ahead,
you
Marla.
go. No,
All right. Well, some districts, what they're doing is if they have a summer school program, and they're also doing like grab and go pickup, the people who are doing the grab and go pickup, they're asking them to pre-register so that they can do a cross-reference check. Typically, the ones that are doing the grab and go pickup are not the ones that are also in school getting the meals every day. So it's not a convenience for the family to have to reach out. So it's kind of a closed enroll in that sense. And there's a lot of, there's some states out there that are doing all closed because they're in rural areas and they're doing delivery, or they're sending their people to a place to pick up. So they want to make sure that they have enough food for them, enough boxes made on the days that they're doing the pickups. So that's something else that they can also do for accountability. Go ahead, Marla.
well, I was going to say the pre-registration, but I also noticed that somebody just put in the chat box that pre-registration didn't work for them. However, and I understand that. But in order to have some system of accountability, then perhaps at the drop-off point, you can account for who you're picking up, kind of to what Donna was saying, and actually keep a roster of who the children are, to make sure, if nothing else, it'll deter people from taking, if they don't have children, or if they have students who are in-person learning, they don't know what you're going to do with the information that you're writing down, but it does hold them to some level of accountability. So you could try that as well.
And we got a question. I'll give this one to you first, Ilana. Food and packaging costs are higher right now, so smaller margins to work with to pay staff. What are some strategies you might have? What can sponsors do when trying to balance all of these moving pieces with small margins?
It's hard, you know, you want to try to be flexible with your menu, and it's not just the food packaging, it's also the supply chain. So, you know, you might have a menu that's set in stone, or you want it to be set in stone, and then all of a sudden you don't get the food delivery that you need to satisfy that menu. So, so kind of be flexible with your menus and your substitution. Your summer rates are higher, so you are going to get more money back to put back into the program, so you can account for it that way. And, you know, I mean, that's just something to consider. You know, right now you might be hurting, but when you get reimbursements, that'll help pay some of that off. So even though they're delayed, it'd be nice if they were real time, but it doesn't work like that.
Well, and in addition, some of the convenience items that many of our districts are purchasing are more costly. I think, to answer your question, Emily, all of our food service directors, they're running a business. And so they have to take into account the increased costs of the packaging and the food costs, and, you know, sometimes have to adjust staffing to what the needs of the program really are. And while people don't want to, while you don't want to cut people's hours, they understand that if the need is not there, it's a program benefit to do what you need to do in the staffing arena. And then when Donna mentioned earlier, the packaging for more than one day, for more than one pickup, that in itself is a staff savings and a cost of savings by not having pickup every day. So you really need to look at the big picture of your business and make adjustments as you need to.
I also think using commodities. I think a lot of people had commodities left last year. And so that's what we've been doing is we had a lot of ground beef left and things like that. So I paid my staff to come in over spring break, and they made spaghetti sauce and taco meat and buffalo chicken dip. And we froze it in containers and we sent it out. And that was a way to use up our commodities. I think by doing the weekly meal boxes, you have one bag that does you use less packaging, because we do like one bag for like 3 or 4 days worth of nuggets, and one bag for 3 or 4 days worth of hamburger buns, and one bag for all of our chicken fajita meat. for the whole week with one bag. And when you put fresh produce in there, you're not using any kind of bagging up at all. So I think the weekly boxes, although we did have somebody yesterday, when we gave them the box, they said, do we need to bring the box back? And I said, no. For COVID, we don't want the box back. But so I do think that by doing multiple days, and then I think that the hiring the students, I hate to keep going back to that, but they're a lot less expensive than my regular staff are. And so we save a lot of money by hiring students. And I'm not turning away. I would take the adults first, but I just don't have them. So I think we have saved a lot of money, are going to save a lot of money. And then only running the buses 1 or 2 days instead of 4 or 5 days saves so much money. And then we had a lot of parents that couldn't figure out the bus pickup yesterday. So we actually put an all call out because we had some boxes left. And I said, I'm going to give you from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock to come pick up boxes. I mean, we were slammed with people coming to drive to pick up boxes. I said, I don't know why we're delivering when all these people jumped in their cars to come get the boxes so quickly. So it may be that the people are willing to come pick up your boxes and you don't even have to do the buses, depending on what your situation is, or you might do a mix of both. It will deliver to the far out and in town, have pickup.
Well, and to your point, Donna, work with your schools, whoever that person is, the counselor or the pupil personnel worker who knows their families, and, only deliver to those families that don't have transportation and can't come pick up.
Right.
We heard an idea that I loved when a bus was going out to deliver meal boxes, but kids weren't coming out. They didn't know what time it was coming. So they stuck a ice cream truck sound, like just put a megaphone and played it out along the routes, and everyone came out. They about, I think, quadrupled their participation. So
I love that. We beat the horn.
For you.
We beat the horn really loud, and we've gotten a few complaints about it. And I just say, look, I explain to them why we're doing it, but it's after 10 o'clock in the morning. You need to be up by 10 anyway. So
before I jump to the next question, we had one in the chat. Donna, how did you get your all call out when you had those extra boxes left over to get that many people to come pick up?
It was amazing. So we have a system here. I am able to do it. I have access to do it. So it goes out on Facebook, Twitter, email, text, and a phone message that goes to their phones. So all of our families and community members can subscribe to our system. And so we have not only the 4,000 kids in the system, but we have all these community members subscribe because, this program is for kids birth to 4 years old. So I sent it out, and I had hardly hung up the phone and the message went out that people were whipping into the driveway. It was amazing. So you just do it, I'm sure most every school system has, it's called Blackboard. In our system, it's called the Blackboard system. So I have to condense the message to tweet it out. I have to condense it for a text message. But the other ones, I can do a pretty lengthy message telling them where to come and why, what we have and that kind of stuff. And I can do it from my phone, or I can do it from a computer anywhere I am.
And if you're not a school-based sponsor, maybe then you can build a partnership with that school district and say, if we ever find ourselves in this situation, would you send a text message out to your families?
Absolutely, we would.
Marla, you kind of touched on this, but we had someone submit a question that they're concerned about promising work and then not being able to fill it. So you touched on it on the converse of, if you have to let people know that you have to reduce their hours, they'll understand. But how can you prevent having to do that? What are some strategies?
Well, one of the strategies would be to hire people with a minimum number of hours, but don't overpromise. So 3 hours a day, with the idea that as our program grows, you may get more hours, but not to overpromise, to build your program small and then increase hours as you're able to, or not able to. So there's no guarantee, but it's a whole lot easier adding hours to a person than hiring them at 6 hours a day and then taking back hours. So I would start small with more of a skeleton and then grow based on need. Donna, Ilana?
I would add to that, that one of the issues we had when we first started doing the program was that the bus drivers were like, okay, we've got this job from 10 to 3, and so we're just going to lollygag around. But I made it very clear to them that they had to find the kids, and they had to get the kids to come pick up the meals and stuff. And that if they didn't, they were going to be out a job. So I kind of put the impetus on them to do a really good job of finding where the kids were, making sure the kids knew they were coming, beeping the horn, waiting on them, because sometimes they would beep the horn and then just go right on, or wait 10 seconds. And sometimes kids are not as quick getting out of the house and getting to the bus, and they would call us and go, the bus came by, but it went too fast and I missed it. So I put a lot of pressure on them that they had to get their numbers. They had to make sure they were patient, found the kids. So a lot of them got out, went and knocked on the doors and did all kinds of things to get the kids, because I told them it was job security for them. So those were the days more than when we were having trouble we had more drivers than we do now. We're really struggling with bus drivers, I would say, more than anything. But we are using smaller buses too. That's another idea, is you can use really small buses that don't require bus drive CDLs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this will be the last question. Oh, go ahead, Ilana, and then
I was just going to say, it might not work for the summertime, but during the school year, if you have the bus drivers and the different hours, you can marry them with, if they have 2 hours or 3 hours in the morning for the bus, and they need 4 hours or 5 hours or 6 hours for benefits, then packaging that with a job and food services is a benefit to them, because then they now receive more hours and also benefits. So it might not work during the summertime, just because a lot of times you're using temporary employees, but definitely during the school year, it's something to consider.
Just to piggyback on what Donna said, what I've been doing, and this isn't meals, but it's delivering food staples and produce to homes utilizing our bus drivers, and they have a list. And if there are, and they do go deliver right to the doorstep, but if they can't deliver, they need to call. And so then we need to reach out to the recipient and say, our driver's there. I mean, it does take a little bit more time, but it's certainly a benefit than, rather than the end of the day, somebody say we didn't get our box. So it brings the bus drivers into the loop. I just saw the question about them getting paid. The bus drivers in our county are paid by transportation. So it's quite a benefit for the help that they give to the food service fund, because food services doesn't have to pay them. But the flip side of that, and part of the reason why they're so excited, or why the transportation office is so excited to have them do this, is because they're afraid if they don't keep them working, they'll lose them. And filling bus driver positions during the school year can be very, very difficult. So they want to give them the opportunity to work their hours to keep them employed.
Now, we have to pay for our bus driver's salary. So we pay our bus drivers $15 an hour to work. And so I'm sorry, I got to share that we, I think most programs do. School nutrition pays for the bus drivers. From what I've seen, that's very unusual. Marla, you must have a charm that I do not have.
No, I think it's different. Yeah, I think it's different based on districts. So I've spoken to a lot of districts where the school pays for the transportation, and then in the summertime, the transportation goes away because they're not doing any programs. So then they're left there trying to figure out something else to do. Sometimes they take on their own contract for the summertime at a lower rate, and sometimes they find another way, so it's really dependent.
And it's based on the number of months that their contract. If they're a 10-month bus driver and they were brought back, food services would have to absorb the cost. But if they're a 12-month bus driver and they would be working anyway, then transportation would absorb the bus. So good point. It's dependent upon the actual driver.
Mm-hmm.
To the folks in the audience, if you have a question you want to ask aloud, go ahead and raise your hand now, and I'll see the queue pop up of hand raising while we answer this last question, which is, let's end on a high note. What are some ways to encourage staff morale? What are some ideas to get your staff energized? It's been a long year. Are there incentives or rewards or things that you do with your staff to keep them happy and energized and ready to push through another couple months of food service.
Well, one of the things is get out there with them. And I know Donna's habits, and I know Ilana this isn't a hierarchy. This is, we're all in this together. We've got a job to do. It's a tough job, and we're all in it together. And nobody in the department is any better than anybody else. And I think when your employees see you're out there with them and you're part of their team, then it gives them the incentive to keep working. The other is, as Donna did, they're working 4-day weeks. What a bonus to work a longer 4 days and have Friday off and get paid for it. I assume they get paid for it, right?
They do. Yeah.
So I think, and I think that's probably true to the people on this call. You don't do this kind of work because it's a job and you're getting paid. You do this because your heart is in it. And your staff needs to feel valued, and they need to feel as though they're an important part of who you are.
Yesterday was our first day, as I mentioned. I clocked 12.33 miles walking around out helping the buses, 12.33 miles in between my two schools that were doing buses. And I was out there, and I mean, I was soaked, drenched from, all my clothes drenched out there with the guys and the staff and doing what it took, and just having fun with them and telling them what a good job they were doing and keeping them going. But I think just things like bringing in lunch for them one day doesn't cost a lot, bringing in pastries, just any little things like that makes them feel, just bringing them a few dozen donuts in there for them, just little things like that make them, they don't want a lot. They don't require a lot, just little things like that. And, for us, we've been really good about honoring their vacation time. A lot of them are taking a week's vacation, and we said that was okay. And we're working around all their vacation time. So I think that was really key, that we are allowing them to take vacation, and we're trying to shift all those things. And I think that helps.
Well, and another easy morale booster that I've heard from people is just to, have, it's not just the food service supervisors or food service directors recognizing all the good work that they're doing, but maybe a little bit higher if there's a superintendent or a higher administrator or the board that can recognize it in some way. And then that's just a little bit of recognition will go a long way for them. But for the people that I worked with, I would just do little trinkets here and there, like little bags of candy saying you're so appreciated. And they would be little surprises. I even did like stickers. I know it sounds so silly, but just like secret stickers. They would know when they were coming, they would just arrive.
So we did jackets at the end of last summer, at the end of the summer when school started, we did jackets, and they had Lunch Lady Rosie the Riveter patches on them and stuff. And we had a bunch of guys working for them, and I didn't do the jackets for them because they were Rosie the Lunch Lady jackets, and they came to me and they said, we want a jacket. I said, well, I would love for you to have a jacket. I had no idea that you would wear them. They loved wearing their jackets. They were proud to have their jackets that they had worked in feeding our kids. So the jackets were not all that expensive.
Well worth it.
Yes.
Awesome ideas. And I just wanted to elevate, someone put in the chat, get other administration members to come and work alongside you too. And I know that's something we had all talked about. So this has been a fabulous conversation. I don't see anyone with their hand raised, but feel free, like I said, if you want to ask your question aloud, raise your hand. If you have more questions, throw them in the chat. And we can stick around for a little bit and answer some of those. But I'm also really excited to share the opportunity, if you are wanting to have a one-on-one session with Donna, Marla, or Ilana, and just talk to them individually about your community and, this won't work in my community for this reason. Can you help me think of other ideas to find drivers? Sign up. There is a form that I'm putting in the chat right now, and we'll send this out via email as well. Please, if you are interested in having a one-on-one follow-up conversation, it's free, I should say. I'm not sure if that was clear, but it would be a free kind of consultation with one of the awesome panelists here today. So fill out this sign up form by the end of next week, and we'll reach out and get you set up to have a one-on-one. Other than that, a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much, Donna, Marla, and Ilana. My head is spinning with ideas, and I'm sure everyone on the call is as well. There's lots of thank yous in the chat. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you not only for sharing your insight and wisdom, but for all that you do to make sure the kiddos in your community stay healthy and active and ready to learn. So thank you all for joining, and I will send a follow-up email with the recording and the transcription of the conversation. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.